This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening. My name is Mike Gilliard. I'm the Executive Director of the Kingston City Land Bank. Welcome to our March 22nd, 2021 board meeting. For public awareness, we do have two public comment sessions, one at the beginning and one at the end of the meeting. We ask the participants limit their comments to no more than 2 minutes per speaker. We appreciate you trying to stick to that time limitation. With that, I'll just say welcome and hand it over to Daniel.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome. We have tonight Peter joining us from the Nova Foundation, which is very exciting. Couple points of order. Can we vote to adopt last month's meeting minutes? They were sent around, but take all the time you need. And when somebody wants to do a motion, go for it.
I'll make a motion, Karen.
I can second, Steve.
All right, all in favor of passing February's meeting minutes?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes, I'm pretty sure. Thank you, everyone. All right, I think tonight is pretty short. I don't have a whole ton of updates, but all three renovations are moving along apace. As expected, there are some things that are unexpected. So 248 Main, moving along pretty well. New roof is on, which is great. The kitchen is all roughed in. It's sheetrocked already. So everything's going along pretty well over there. 64 Van Buren, same thing. Everything's moving along nicely. 170 is a little bit on pause because we're waiting on some price estimates for some engineering work. There were some fairly significant structural concerns, so we are a little bit on hold there, but the contractors are being really good about kind of pivoting and focusing their energy where they can get stuff done. So I think everything is pretty under control. Sales and marketing update, Mike will have more on that than I will, but I understand that responses from Repco have been scant, let's say, and so I think I'll mostly let Mike take that over because he has the most up-to-date information. Title searches have kind of continued, I think. So we've basically committed to an April 15th date of final decisions about the original 36 properties. As you guys know, we didn't choose those properties. We were handed those properties, and many of them are not homes. Many of them are homes at rather unreasonable prices. So I think, yeah, so in 3 weeks, we will be handing over kind of our final list to the city of what we'll be still trying to acquire and ones that we really can't do anything with. So along with that, we've talked about this before a little bit, but it's kind of come to a head, I guess, is the property located at 124, 126 Franklin. It was previously slated to be office space for both the Department of Economic and Community Development and the Land Bank. That plan has since disappeared, which I think is a good thing because it opens the opportunity for that home to be a home again. So the land bank is actively trying to acquire that property. It was not included on the original list of 36 because it was done through a grant fund with the city. But in essence, the land bank has already, through this grant, invested some money in the property already. We, as far as I know, are the only active proposal on the property, really the only pathway forward for it right now. And we can do it within, you know, the first quarter of 2022, if not the end of the year. So the request is being made to the council president. This goes through the Finance and Audit Committee of the Common Council. After they move it forward, it will go to a full council resolution, and hopefully they will allow us to acquire it for the price of the back taxes, and that will be the 5th home of our pilot. Unfortunately, there were a couple of other homes in Midtown that we were considering from the original list of 36, but we can't acquire them due to title issues. So short of just abandoning the Midtown idea and diverting funding to a different place in the city, which I don't think anybody wants to do, we're advocating for us to be able to buy that property. So that's what's going on there. Some of you, maybe all of you know, I gave a report to the Common Council at the beginning of this month, which I think went pretty well. You know, I think it was kind of the first time that various council members had really even heard about the land bank, and most of them really heard about it since the original resolution in 2018. So it's a lot to get through, but I think they're pretty up to speed and feeling a renewed sense of confidence in our capacity to do what we said we would do and are actively doing right now. So I think is good stuff. So I think those are my updates. With that, yes, Bob.
Do you want a resolution from the board to acquire 124, 126 Franklin?
Sure, we can do it now or with the acquisition disposition report.
Your call, whatever you want to do.
All right, I would like to entertain a motion to acquire 124, 126 Franklin from the city of Kingston for the price of the back taxes, which is 19,000, hold please, $19,398.71.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor of the acquisition of 124, 126 Franklin?
Right behind you, Braylon. You bring me your cup.
In favor.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion passes. Thank you, everybody. We will continue to pursue that and hopefully have title in the next month or two. So very exciting. That house has been vacant, just for context, for I think roughly 40 years. So it's a very exciting project that we get to do, hopefully. So with that, we have a couple of members of the public tonight who are near and dear to our hearts from the Novo Foundation. So Bethany Lampland is our kind of main point of contact at Novo. Mike and I have the pleasure of talking to her every 2 weeks, and she has been an invaluable resource to us. And Peter Buffett, of course, is the president of Novo. And if either or both of them would like to say a few words, they're more than welcome. If not, we'll move on. But the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you, Daniel. It's been such a pleasure for me too to get to learn a little bit more about the land bank over the last half a year and be involved on the periphery and all the great work you all are doing. So nothing more to say than other than thank you for everything that all of you do that work tirelessly as volunteers for a really noble project.
I'll just second Bethany. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for continuing this work, and glad to see the Franklin House is on the list. That's great. Thank you.
Our pleasure. Thank you guys so much for your support of our little organization. We will make you proud, and it will be worth everyone's while, I promise. All right, Mike, do you have a report for us?
I do. Good evening, everyone. I know we're obviously skipping over the public comment section. It must be due to the nice weather that we don't have anyone outside of Peter and Bethany. It's very nice to for you to attend on such a nice day, particularly, but greatly appreciated. So I break my updates up into obviously the categories that we talk about each month. But this month I'm going to try to give a couple of shout outs if I can. I'm trying to do that in some of my meetings. So we have 149 Greenkill. I know Daniel may have touched on it briefly. We're still waiting to work with the city's corporation council to get a response on that as far as the final pieces of the paperwork in order to acquire that building. But we are ready to acquire it. We have checks cut. Thank you, Erica, who is not here, but usually is. We're just waiting, but hopefully within the next week or so, we will have acquired that property, upon which we will commence with the work to put together an RFP for an architect. So that will be a new change for this organization, I think, just to try to broaden and deepen our approach to the properties that we redevelop. I think it will be a very helpful asset to try to give Daniel some more bandwidth, given the tremendous amount of time and effort that he puts into so many different things for this organization. The design committee will be working with the architect. So I have a little more bandwidth around that. The second and final property, 124, 126 Franklin, I think we've talked about that, obviously. I would just say thank you to the mayor for helping articulate the process to us today, by which we can make the request to purchase the property. So it seems Byzantine to me, but straightforward to him. So thank you for that and helping us figure it out. And then thank you in advance to Bob for helping us navigate through with Daniel and I and anyone else who's interested in this list of 36 properties. As Daniel mentioned, by the 15th of April, we've committed to make our list of rejections back to the city to allow things to continue to move forward with the properties that we're not interested in pursuing. Construction updates, I think most of it has been covered, but I will once again, thanks to both Daniel and Owen for the tremendous amount of work they're putting in, nights, evenings. I know Daniel's working weekends on some of this just to make sure that not only the contractors are receiving real-time feedback and we're encountering challenges and trying to work through them as quickly as possible, but that the reality of having such a small team requires that we're all kind of firing on all cylinders. So thank you, Daniel, very much, and Owen as well, for continuing to just plug away at this. We're a small team, but we're mighty, and we are getting there. And it's very exciting, as Daniel mentioned, to see the progress, not just on our Instagram page, but we're having walkthroughs, right? So April 7th, Serena and Omari, thank you for agreeing to wade into our construction sites. And I don't know if we'll have hard hats, but we can get them. It'll be really exciting for you to see the progress that we're making, in real time, and meet some of the great people that we're working with and kind of get a sense of what these projects are going to look like. They are moving along incredibly rapidly. We are encountering challenges. There's some things that we have to work through on one of the buildings, the structural issues I've mentioned before. We are negotiating the price, but we did receive the price, and it's not a small one. So that's just one of the many things that we work through on a daily basis, but welcome to the sites, and we look forward to seeing you guys. Sales updates. So I think it can't be understated how much patience you've all had with me personally and my experience to just kind of try to figure out where these homes should be in terms of price and the other underwriting guidelines. I think, as Daniel mentioned, overwhelming, beat down our front door, turn off your cell phone because it's ringing off the hook response to the homes that we put out on the market. These are the first three at 174 Hasbrook, 248 Main, and 64 Van Buren. So our marketing period for these first three homes is ending on the 27th of March. And on Friday, the Acquisition Disposition Committee, I don't want to take much out of that meeting, but I will just say that internally, I think we've decided to retool the pricing on the homes to allow for a greater household diversity being the major change. By that, I mean, to translate that, I mean household sizes of 3 to 6. So the net effect of that is a significant reduction in the sales price of the homes, but given the fact that we're trying to reach people and we have homes, beautiful homes that will soon be available to purchase and construction complete, we think it's the right move. And then we have 2 more homes right behind it. So our sales and marketing team, Bartek in particular, as the chair, have done an amazing job. I think we've been everywhere but a billboard and a banner on a plane trying to reach folks in 2 languages. And that's my update on the sales and marketing piece. But if there are questions around that, I'm happy to speak now or speak offline, or you can attend one of the many meetings that we're talking about this issue in. But that's my update. So we will be retooling the sales prices, working with Bartek to figure out when the next marketing period will start, but our current one will end on the 27th. Funding updates. On the enterprise, yeah, sure, please.
Okay. So you said it'll be changed to like 3 to 6 people occupancy. Is that the?
That appears that was the decision on Friday. We're going to take the underwriting to a broader audience at this point, meaning the lenders that would be providing the mortgages work more closely with RUPCO this time. I think we needed to focus on it more at the initial stages, and we will focus on it more now. But that's, yeah, Omar, that's the significant change.
Okay, and how would that affect the price?
Sure. Let me put on my underwriter hat for a minute. So when you're selling an affordable home, you're pricing it based on the lowest household size. So if you're saying a family's at 60% of AMI at a 6-person household size and a family at 60% of AMI at a 3-person household size, you're sizing the mortgage based on the 3-person household size. So the family of 6 can still afford it, although it will be much more affordable to them, but the family of 3 will be able to afford it now. So because the AMIs are scaled based on household size, it's a lower number than the 6-person household size. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. But how will we kind of factor in that cost, or I guess that reduction in price?
Yeah,
given our costs.
That is a very good question. It is one that keeps me up at night sometimes. I think we need to have a robust internal discussion, both within the finance committee and anyone else who's interested in jumping in on the impacts of this decision. But we've committed to sell under our current pilot 1 home at 60% AMI, 1 at 70, 1 at 80, and the balance of the next 2 at or below 100%. So this is the commitment that we made in the grant agreement, and we intend to meet or exceed that. So we tried to do it one way, and by opening it up this way, if we don't receive a response, then I think we can end the organization, because apparently there's no need for affordable housing in Kingston. But I don't think that's the case, and I think we have overwhelming response by opening up the household sizes.
Yeah, I guess I just mean, so do we need to fundraise to make up the difference? That's really my question, I guess.
We certainly always need to fundraise. If Erica were on the call, she and I spoke about earlier today, a conversation that probably is a little premature, because Karen, Erica, and I haven't spoken about exactly what that means. It will be reflected in our budget, the change in sales revenue. And how that looks for us, we're still in a perfectly good position from an operating standpoint for, I would say, almost 2 years, but I might be wrong on that. And there are a lot of things that can affect that, given the costs of construction and things that we're encountering on the sites. We're planning for a more robust, sustainable model around our work. And I think it was clear that selling homes to families at such low incomes was without the good graces of our those who fund our work, it would be not a viable business model. There are many other options, I think, to try to diversify our revenue streams or the grants that we use or we try to access, but it is a change. we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I'm really just looking to clarify. It's not a judgment.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. But so then I guess, so if we're going to change that, will we get a sense of like what the deficit is in terms of our funding to cover that difference in price?
Do you mean what is the loss, or what is the reduction in price?
Well, it sounds like what the decision has been totally made yet by the acquisition disposition committee, or is that confirmed?
Well, the acquisition disposition committee did make some, I don't know, Bob, if I would characterize this incorrectly by saying some decisions or some recommendations or a desire to have this go out to a broader audience of the lending community for their feedback before we finalize anything.
Okay.
Is that an accurate assessment of?
Yeah, I can chime in. The acquisition and disposition committee, given the response that we've gotten so far at the requirements that we have set, which is disappointing, felt it important to change some of those things. Mike has a wonderful chart to show the impacts, so that we can broaden our base of people who are interested in these homes and can afford these homes. And so what we've done is we made recommendations. We made some decisions, and we've given it to Mike in his capable hands to talk to our lenders and to RUPCO and to others to see what kind of an effect this is going to have, hopefully, on the candidate pool. And our goal is to increase the candidate pool so that we can, get these to move forward and sell them. So we've done that. Mike's looking into that, and I'm sure he'll get back to us once he hears from the marketers and RUPCO and others to see what it does to our pool of candidates. And yes, there will be less income derived from the sale of those houses as we change these parameters. But selling the houses is kind of, core mission stuff. So that's where we're at, and that's what we decided last Friday. They get that right, Mike and Daniel and Ilana were all there.
Yeah, I think it's a good decision. I mean, I think it's a great decision, actually. I'm just really asking because I'm on the fundraising committee with Karin and Aneshka and on the finance committee. And I'm just trying to get a sense of like, what does it mean? Like, do we need to do more fundraising? I mean, we're already trying to raise about $30,000 to offset the cost of houses beyond what our initial funding was for this year. So I'm just trying to get a sense of what the next steps are. And maybe you'll share that once you've decided exactly what's going to happen with the houses.
I think we need to let it percolate through a little bit, Mari, and then everyone will be in the loop.
Great.
And correct me if I'm wrong with this, Mike, depending upon who the successful purchaser is, that will drive the final cost of the house, and therefore that'll drive the shortfall, if you will. If a family of 6 are awarded the house, that changes. That's different than if a family of 3 is awarded the house. No,
I wish it were. Well, I don't wish it were that way, but it is not that way.
okay.
And you actually have to set prices before you offer anything, and it's the same for everyone.
Okay.
Everyone who comes in the door gets the same.
So I was wrong. Okay. Which is why I'm not in real estate.
I'm happy to talk to you about my spreadsheet all day. Sorry, Dan.
No, I would just note a couple of things along with this, which I take comfort in. So the first being that obviously this is our first go round. I think we learned in part to discuss these decisions with RUPCO before we make them, given that they are the sales agent. They are more than happy to work with us and all of that, but they, have done this a bunch of times, so they have some insights that we may not. And the other thing that I think about is like, when you normally move into a house or an apartment or really anywhere, you're able to look at the thing that you're buying or renting. In this case, we don't have that. And because these are our first houses, we don't really have like a track record either. So I think it will get much easier once it is, broadly understood and viewable that you know, we have a high standard of construction. We are doing this the right way. We're setting homeowners up for high quality homes that, you know, don't have a bunch of problems. So I think once we sort of get over the hump of these first three, people will be able to better understand like what it is we're doing. There's also the factor of bringing the architect in, as well as kind of filling out this design committee. So I'm hoping that for the next ones, we'll be able to have at least some kind of basic renderings of interior work and stuff so that it's easier for people to understand. Because right now they're just looking at some really crummy looking condemned homes, and it's really hard to picture anyone buying them, let alone buying them for, you know, over $100,000. So I take comfort in those things. And I think, yes, this will get better.
So is it the case that they're not going to be able to tour the homes before they purchase them?
I don't think that's necessarily the case, but the idea of this schedule is essentially that the closing with the homeowner pretty much coincides with getting a certificate of occupancy. So they, I believe, will be able to kind of see the home in progress, but the expectation currently is that they will essentially buy it without it being finished, which is very standard with this kind of thing, but I think difficult for everyone.
I didn't
I
realize.
think we can also probably, well, you know, this is a fun experiment, right? And we're trying to figure out the best way to do things. And if we're selling 3 homes or 5 homes at once, it's not unprecedented to try to give a family or an individual the ability to gain access to a live construction site. We just don't want to have a lot of people going to a lot of active construction sites during construction. So
That makes sense.
maybe there's a way to pull it off. Cool. So on the funding side, I will just let everyone know that we are submitting our quarterly report to Enterprise this month. Thank you, Erica, who is not here, but may see this recording, for everything she's doing to work closely with me and Owen as well to get all of our reporting to them on a regular basis. They seem very happy with the reports they're receiving and our progress, and I think that's going very well. Similarly, the Novo Foundation has in our grant agreement quarterly reports, the first of which will be submitted by the end of this month, and I will be with Erica and possibly Karen if you're interested, just to make sure that, and Daniel as well, I'm sure, and anyone else who wants to see it before it goes out, so that we are putting something together that hopefully sets up a pretty good template for how this will work, because we'll be reporting until February of next year under this grant. And so I think if we just set it up in a way that works for everyone, Novo has been very flexible with exactly what they would like to see, although I'm sure there might be some comments back and forth just to get it right. But that will be taking place this month as well. And I wanted to give a big shout out to Karen. Speaking of nights, weekends, late night evenings, to get these funding applications in. I really appreciate it. You sent one just a few minutes before this meeting. Thank you for that. And we are, I believe, we're in a very good position to meet or exceed the fundraising goals that we set for this year. And that money will go directly into buying down the purchase price of the final 2 homes. So it has a direct impact on our work. So thanks for that. All right. Got my other section. A quick update from the county. I do speak with them still every 2 weeks. Nothing to report in the context of the land bank, although the county did release their housing study, which I recommend everyone take a look at and read. I was also through Pattern for Progress, which was the group that the city worked with to produce its housing study. It does have recommendations, just like the city's housing study did. It also introduces the opportunity to possibly produce term sheets for affordable housing, which, just for everyone's awareness, I think would be a great thing. I think this is another way that we potentially could look at other ways to ensure our sustainability the other dollars that help us to bridge the gap between the cost to construct and the cost that we're selling the homes. Couple things. Is anybody having any tech issues? Just some housekeeping. Last time we spoke, there were some folders. I think, Omari, we ironed that out. I just offer this as a general comment to the board. If there's anything, now might be the time. It might not be, but no one is nodding one way or the other. So I assume all tech issues are resolved and I'm no longer acting as CTO for this meeting. Cool. Okay. That's it for me. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, committee reports. Bob Dennison, tell us the good news.
Okay. First, I want to apologize for the notes I made after our committee meeting. I misspelled just about everybody's name. So, which engineer, you know, or not spelling is not our strong suit, and it's apparent when I write stuff. The notes have been are being revised. They've been circulated, but some people had some comments. I'm making the revisions. I've accepted all the comments. They're good. I'll be quick. We talked about 149 Greenkill and as a Pathway 1 project and moving forward on that, and Mike spoke to that earlier. We talked about 124, 126 Franklin. We all passed the resolution to acquire it as a Pathway 1 project, and that's good news, and that'll go forward now. We talked a little bit about 111 Downs, but we decided that we need to have a plan for Pathway 2 projects, which is what that would be. So we'll develop a plan for how to do Pathway 2 projects before we move forward with that building, which has potential for a Pathway 2 project, which would be not renovated by us, but turned over to someone else to renovate. So we have to develop the process and before we move forward on that. Serena talked about Citizens for Local Power and talking to them with a consultation to see if we can come up with some ways for energy savings in these houses. And Daniel's going to contact them, and that'll fold into the design process and maybe some of the buildings that we have ongoing. As we talked about, we revised the sale prices for the 3 houses, or made a recommendation that Mike will run through our marketers and see how that comes up. We went to, the household size we changed a little bit. We changed a little bit of the marketing band, and we're hopeful that it will generate more interest and more people involved in it. And on the last thing, we talked about policy revisions for the acquisition and disposition. We're going to mark those up offline, send them around. If anybody else has any thoughts on policy revisions for the acquisition and disposition policies, which are in the, you can get them through the Google Drive, feel free to put those in the mix, and we'll look at those over time and make the revisions necessary as Mike points out, as we learn and go forward, which is good. But we're going forward, so learning that's a good thing. That's a good process. So that's all I've got for acquisition and disposition. If anybody has any questions, let me know. How was that? Did I do all right, Daniel?
That was exceptional, extraordinary. One for the books.
Sorry, Bob, did you have some specific policies that you wanted us to review, or are they just all the policies that are in there?
Disposition policy specifically.
Okay, just the disposition policy?
So there's a separate acquisition policy that we really just haven't touched because it's quite simple and still in line with everything we're doing. But the disposition policy, certain things are a little outdated and it needs a refresh. So.
Okay.
Karen, fundraising committee.
Yeah, so we met earlier this month. Aneshka wasn't able to participate in the meeting, but she and I caught up by phone. So we are focusing on our goal of raising $30,000 by June of this year in terms of, and for that, reaching out to family foundations, local corporate foundations. Thank you, Serena, for putting us in touch with the Hudson Valley Foundation for Youth Health. We had a really great feedback from that, and we submitted an application there for $2,000 that we feel pretty good about. Bob also helped connect us with the Peckham Foundation, so thank you for that, Bob. We submitted an application there for $5,000. We haven't heard yet from an application or a nomination I submitted to the Sawyer Savings earlier in January. So who knows, they're supposed to let us know by the end of March. Feels like the end of March. I don't know. The nerves kick in. And then we are working on a couple other things. Mike and I had a really good meeting with Ulster Savings and talked about some of the tools that Ulster Savings can offer, including what sounded like a really exciting potential matching savings program for buyers who go through Ulster Savings for closing costs. And as part of that, they also encouraged us to apply to their charitable foundation. So we'll be submitting an application for $7,500 to them. And then we had talked about events, and one of the things that Omari came up with, which I thought was a really nice idea, and he's looking into it a little further, about having a one-day event with a local business in June to sort of, to see where we give us time to do this fundraising, and if we have a gap, then maybe they would help us with a one-day event to sort of fill the gap of that 30,000. So we'll, have more info later on, see how far we get there. And I think that, and then we also did talk about, potential events for later in the year. I think what we're really focusing on right now is just to, as had said, raise that $30,000 so that we can offset the purchase price for the final 2 homes by $15,000 each. And then I think also as the home starts selling, that'll really sort of raise, confidence, the public's confidence in our organization, and then also, just sort of raise our profile as we can start sending out these, success stories and educate more people on the good work of the land bank. And so, so I really do feel as though, we'll be able to start focusing on diversifying our funding, also with individual appeals to individuals and things like that later on. But we're focusing on that for later in the year. That kind of is most of it. I don't know if Neshka or Omari, if you feel I missed something. Oh, we did also talk about passive income sources, following up on some thoughts from Danielle. So Neshka was looking into that and connecting Erica with those ideas as well. Any questions? Okay. Thank you all very much in terms of shout outs. And as Mike started out the meeting, it's really exciting to see everyone kind of, responding to thoughts on how to engage the community and, on our fundraising to support our organization. Steve Noble had some really great suggestions for, raise the roof campaign later in the year. Bartek had some great ideas. So it's really lovely hearing from all of you on that. So thank you. Keep the ideas coming, please.
Thank you, Karen. Finance and audit.
Hello again. So for finance, we actually spent we had hoped to, by this board package, have for your review our reporting documents that we're going to ideally include in each board package, as well as submit to individual committees, on an earlier basis than, as they may need. So we don't have those ready yet. And Erica and her team have been working incredibly hard getting everything in line for the audit. The state did extend the audit deadline for the authority's budget office for another 60 days. Erica is still trying to stick to what had been, end of the month, I think, just to sort of keep her calendar in order. and keep us ahead of the game. We did, as a finance committee, Steve, Omari, and myself, along with Mike and Erica, of course, are going to meet later this week for a second meeting this month, just to, for when Erica believes she'll have the audit materials ready for us to go over. And then at that same time, she'll have the January and February financial reports. So again, we do intend to have them for you for next month. It's just been a big lift as she has been kind of sorting through everything that was done, last year and getting it into a new software system on her end so that she can make things a lot more accessible for the auditors, and then also generate these financial reports for us. Hasn't been a small undertaking, so we're very appreciative of her time on that. So we spent a lot of time actually looking at the organizational budget, which is, you will see, we hope, in the next board package, which will be comprised of the expense budget that was approved in October of last year, and then also the revenue that we had available to the organization at the beginning of the year. So that's being termed as the organizational budget. And then, for when we do set our budget, when we come to the board in September of this, July or September of this, August or September of this upcoming year for the next year budget, it will be more representative of that organizational budget, both revenue and expenses. So we're learning, growing pains, learning step by step the right way to do things. So, and we really just spent a lot of time then following that, just going over formatting, talking about, how and when revenue is reflected in the budget, as well as expenses, and how she's breaking out the budget to reflect, differences between expenses that are incurred when we're doing the due diligence for the house and for each house, and then when a house is actually selected to move forward on, how those expenses are then reflected, and put into the bucket, as she calls them, for each house. So all that kind of stuff, but we'll have more for you next month. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you twice. Bartek, I know you've had an extremely busy month. Do you have an update for us?
Yeah, so the marketing period for the first 3 properties has continued this month, obviously, and will remain open for the next few days. So we'll see if things change with regards to the applicant pool that we've seen thus far via RUPCO. In terms of highlights from this past month, we did have 2 virtual information sessions for the 3 properties, and RUPCO joined us for both calls as well. In terms of our committee meeting this month, we discussed some of the intricacies of working with RUPCO and how we might be able to improve that relationship going forward. We also discussed how we can, if you've seen the RUPCO application, it's not easy to get through. So we discussed how we might be able to streamline, the inquiries coming through our end, so we can make sure that we have a complete picture of the amount of interest that's actually out there for the properties. And then we also discussed preparing for a second marketing period for the 3 properties based on what RUPCO determines has come through for this first marketing period. And finally, we also discussed improvements that we'll make for future marketing periods in terms of getting the word out there. Some of those Mike mentioned earlier, but I will just call one out. and there's a little bit of a disconnect between the properties and what folks might expect we'll be doing to those. Currently, we're showing historical photos of the properties, which might be a little bit confusing to some out there. So, how can we show the work that we're doing and the work that we're planning on doing to these homes when they're actually sold? And then Serena, Lana, Anushka, do you want to mention anything else?
I think you sort of mentioned it, Bartek, but in case I missed it, I know you mentioned the application being challenging to get through, which may have been part of the lack of applicants, but also that we would love to figure out ways to support people. Did you talk about that? I don't.
Yes,
I
I
think that
actually
there was
wanted to
a.
mention the same thing.
There-
I did sit in on a meeting with Rupco and Mike and Bartek where that was discussed. One of the things that we have to realize about, Ulster County in general is that there are thousands of applications to Rupco for rental housing, but not for purchasing a home. And so Rupco has some kind of education program where they are going to announce this land bank opportunity to, that community. And then also they offered to do a little bit more hand holding on getting through the, specifically the land bank, drop down selection and how to do that. So yeah, I think where it left me is that there's still a lot of learning going on their part and on our part. And that's why that whole, setting the price of the house and the occupants of the house, all of these things that balance out how expensive the home in the end is. And also whether or not our population who is in dire need of affordable housing can actually really afford these homes, right? So it's a little bit of a puzzle that I think we're all trying to balance and understand. So that's where the Rupco conversation is in my mind. Did I get that right, Mike and Bartek?
Yeah.
I think just the thing also I was trying to say is that in the original phase of this, at least I had envisioned that people actually could get some help in filling out the applications.
Yeah,
and
they
are going to provide.
Yeah, thanks, Bartek. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I did call that out actually at the end of the info session. There is an actual number and email that Rupco suggested that, if anyone has trouble, they could just call rather than go through the portal. I think my biggest concern is that, Rupco might be losing some of our applicants just because they're probably receiving so many applications for so many other things. And if someone doesn't, check a box or land bank, and we're, one option among several dozen, then it might be hard for that individual or that household to actually, mark that they're interested in land bank property. And therefore, it's a little bit murky on Rupco's side in terms of the actual interest they're getting. So that is a concern to be worked out.
I have a quick question, Bartek, just following on that. So is it not being familiar with their process, does that mean that they're not sort of on behalf of the land bank kind of proactively looking at their pool of people who are going through their process or general applicants and seeing who might fit and then proactively approaching them? Or is that something they even can do as an organization legally, kind of try and not divert, but I guess make an option available or make it clearer? Or is that not?
Yeah, they are doing that. I think they've begun doing that, as of early March. So the counselors, they are looking through their list and seeing who might be eligible based on household size and other factors. So that is definitely another channel by which we could be matched with potential applicants.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's good to know.
Can I ask, you mentioned, Bartek, about having more current photos of the homes. And I'm wondering, I do see that we have like floor plans for the houses that we're working on, but is it possible to get like color renderings of those, or like a more of a like 3D version? I'm looking at Daniel kind of.
Oh, are you trying to kill me? It is possible. It is possible. I will do my best. It's a lot of things, particularly with the Meyer crew, have been sort of up in the air, and we've been having to adapt really quickly. So I actually think it's a good thing that those weren't put out, just because various things have changed. I think within the week we will have much clearer, like we're really dialing in this finished package. I'm like, I need this to end finally. So yes, I can work on that. The other thing that kind of goes along with that is that seems obvious. I don't know why it took us so long to think of, but we have Zillow listings up now for all, I think 2 of the homes. For some reason, Zillow wouldn't approve 248 Main. I don't know what's going on with that, but that's where people go to look for housing. So we might as well have a thing on there. So right now there's not a lot on there. It just sort of directs you to the application, but I'm going to work this week on fleshing that out with photos and a little more detail in the descriptions and stuff. So hopefully that'll help drive interest. I think we can tell that it's driven traffic to the site, and you can see how many like saves the listings have, but I don't think it's directly resulted in any applications yet. Pretty easy to do way to get it out there more. So
thanks.
I think we're good, Daniel.
Okay, thank you. Agnieszka, do you have a governance update? I don't think we had a meeting, did we?
No, we didn't have a meeting, but I want to remind everyone that on Thursday night we're having our get together. Kind of a governance seat kind of thing. So Lana and I will work on getting our ducks in a row for that, and I look forward to seeing everyone there. That's really all I have.
Agnieszka, you had said that you were going to have some icebreakers for. Can you give us a tease so we can prepare for the icebreaker?
What?
So,
that's not
just
how
speaking for
icebreaker
myself, so I don't
works.
freeze at the icebreaker.
What kind of fun is that?
Icebreakers are
Oh,
fun.
okay.
Surprise.
All right, worth a try.
You actually have to bring a block of ice and break it.
Yeah, if that block of ice falls into a shot of tequila, it's pretty good.
It's gonna be a blast. Wear your most exciting pajamas, everyone. All right. Well, so we have another public comment period. Still just Peter and Bethany, but if you guys want to say anything, more than welcome. I'm gonna,
Daniel, maybe I'll just chime in to say that I know both Peter and I were very happy to have any kind of conversation or answer any questions if the board wanted to have any kind of discussion with Novo at all, and kind of Novo as a funder of the land bank. And that doesn't mean there has to be questions at all, but it's just an opportunity, and we're always accessible, and Peter is quite accessible as well if there are questions that come up later. Well, good. It means everything's going smoothly, probably.
I'm sorry, Bethany, I didn't mean to speak over you. This is Serena Pepper. I just wanted to chime in, and I'm not sure if everyone saw the chat, and certainly if you're calling in, you wouldn't see that. I just wanted to make the point that I do know at least 2 families in the community who are not currently qualified to purchase a home, but based on the fact that we're marketing these homes and showing them at what appear to be reasonable purchase prices at a time when such a thing doesn't seem to exist anywhere else, these people have decided to redirect their tax refund to savings, and to make that particularly savings towards buying a first home and to saving for a down payment. So I just wanted to say that I think that the impact of this is positive, and I want to just make sure that that gets thrown out there, because that to me is an impact that maybe we couldn't have foreseen, not that we couldn't have foreseen, but that we're going to see the rewards of further down the line, where we're actually creating a market for these homes within the local community for people who really didn't think that this was an opportunity that they would ever have. So thank you, as our funder and representative of the funding stream that we have. I really want to thank you for allowing that opportunity into our community. So thank you for that.
Gosh, it really feels, I know I speak for Peter because he says this to me all the time, but it really feels like the thanks really go all of your direction, because you're the ones doing the really hard work to pull this all off. But it's so great to hear that story. And even if it's not translating into an actual acquisition of a home right now, it's building that pipeline. And it's, to Daniel's great point, that kind of building the credibility as an organization and building up the incentives for folks to kind of make decisions in their lives that might allow them to participate in future rounds of what the land bank conducts and houses they put on the market is really exciting.
I'll just second Bethany, which is usually what I do in situations like this. Yeah, thank you so much, all of you, because you're really doing the work, and we really appreciate it.
Well, thank you guys. I think I can safely speak for our board when I say that we are incredibly thankful for Novo's support, and we can't wait to show you these homes in a few months. They're going to be beautiful and hopefully sold. So we have that to look forward to. In the meantime, we're doing site walkthroughs monthly. If any time, I know Bethany's in Connecticut, but if you want to make the trip down, or Peter, you're closer by, we would love to show you around our kooky job sites. There are a lot of activity. It's exciting. Well, cool. Well, I don't think I have any new business aside from everything we've already talked about. Does anybody else? Okay. Well, then I guess I could entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move that we adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor of adjourning March's board meeting?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Daniel.
Great. Good to see all of you. See you
Good night,
Thursday.
everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. See you later.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.